So I want to welcome everyone. You are watching interviews from First Presbyterian Church. We're going to begin this initiative, and we look forward to interviewing our staff, our membership, and other folks from our community that you will be interested in learning who they are and what they're up to. We begin today with two folks that you may be very familiar with Reverend Michael York, who is one of the pastors here at First Presbyterian Church, and Dr. Jacob Craig, who is the Director of Music and Arts here at First Presbyterian Church. So we want to thank you all for being with us, the first guinea pigs, as it were, on our interview process. So the goal of this is to share a little bit about ourselves so that you can get to know us a little more fully and to have a little bit of fun and to also have a little bit of a serious conversation about areas of ministry and areas of our life. So here we go. We're going to get to know each other a little better. So the first question is, Jacob, what are some of your hobbies or things that you enjoy as a pastime? Tell us a little bit about that.
They have been varied over the years for sure, but most of them tend to be centered around the outdoors and centered around some kind of physical things. I've always enjoyed playing sports and really enjoyed picking up golf recently, and I keep up with boxing. And the most recent pastime I've kind of taken up is trying to finish off and get my PPL, a private pilot's license, and that's been very enjoyable as well.
Very good. What do you listen to when you fly? Mozart? Beethoven?
Absolutely not. Mainly, it would be Stairway to Heaven.
Oh, yeah. Wait, sounds good. Sounds good. Michael, what about you? Hobbies or pastimes do you enjoy?
You know, the children and the family kind of put a damper on some of the pastimes, but we've spent a lot of time just walking outside. I like to walk. I like to run if my body can handle it. I took a nice long road bike ride a couple Sundays ago, which was really good. Felt good. I used to bike 100 miles a week back before the family, and so I've got a trailer now that I can take Bo and Birdie on the bike behind me, and so they love. Bo likes to ride every night before after dinner, before bedtime. He likes to ride, so it's kind of nice to share some of those fun things. But I think cycling is something I'd really love to get back into. It's a lot of fun for me.
Good. Well, that's interesting and helpful. Another question. This was given to me by my son to ask y'all. Have y'all ever had a nickname? I remember when I played soccer, some of the folks on the team used to call me Slow Woe, which I was never really happy about. What any nicknames that y'all have ended up with over the years?
I've never actually had a nickname. No, my sister and brother always called me Jake. It's kind of the only, the shortening of the Jacob. And my dad sometimes would call me Four because I'm the fourth, whatever. But I never really had a nickname that stuck from any friends or anything like that before.
All right, Michael?
My grandfather gave all of his grandchildren nicknames. And for some strange reason, he gave me the nickname of Boll Weevil.
Nice.
Because I had this habit of eating whatever was in sight. So kind of destroyed their pantry on a regular basis. So he never called me Michael. He only ever called me Boll Weevil. And so nobody has picked that up, which is probably a good thing.
There you go, Boll Weevil. That works. That works. So what was your first experience of church life that you clearly remember? So for me, for example, one of the things, it's probably not my first memory, but it's probably one of my first dominant memories, is that in order to escape going to Sunday school, my father, who was an executive presbyter at the time, preached at a variety of different churches, within our region. And in order to skip Sunday school, if I rode with Dad, I could go to their church and not have to go to Sunday school. So I did that, not realizing that in the car, I probably got more Sunday school than I ever thought I would get from Dad working on his sermons to talking about all kinds of stuff. So that really is one of my first memories, quote, of the church, going to all these different churches and riding with my dad. So what's a kind of a first memory of the church?
That's pretty similar to mine as well. My dad was actually a Gideon, and so he was one of those that would go around to the different churches and give kind of speeches as a Gideon, and I would ride with him every time he went, so I got a whole variety of church experience with everything in the surrounding area up there in Appalachia.
Good. So your dad carried his true Bible with him, right? As he always used to have in my Bible class. That's good.
That's exactly right.
Michael?
Well, it's interesting. The theme with dads, you know, I don't know if some folks know, especially if you've been in a small group Bible study with me or whatnot. My first real memory of the church was actually my dad's funeral. I was 5 years old, and it was right around Christmas time. He died on Christmas Day of '83, and '83 was the coldest winter on record for Georgia for the longest time. And so I remember being just really cold because we had a graveside burial. I remember seeing his coffin at the front of the church because it was a Methodist church, and we still did that a lot in the South. But, you know, just remember that my whole family was there, you know, both sides of my family was there, and the church was full because of that family. So church has always been that place of joy and also broken heart, which kind of runs through kind of a theme of our life a little bit. But I remember that funeral as plain as day. I mean, I see it all the time, kind of in my mind's eye, but also church is in that place of comfort for me throughout the same thing. I do remember the pastor at the time, as we were riding from the funeral home to the church for the service, I asked him, I said, what's going to happen to my dad? And he told me, he said, you know, God's going to take care of him, and God's going to take care of you also. And as a 5-year-old, that was kind of some of the best theology that got me through some of the hardest times. So it was really meaningful.
Well, that's a powerful thing to experience as a 5-year-old, but I think pretty good counsel by a pastor for a 5-year-old. So that was pretty neat. So cool. Thank you. So turning from that, you know, we work in the life of the church for a variety of years. I've been involved for a lot of years, Michael and Jacob. So what's maybe one of your favorite things that you've experienced in church life or in your work at the church?
I mean, for me, hands down, it has been the people. You know, I definitely have always been a bit of an introvert, and I found that I've become less so here because I truly enjoy the people. It's just great. We have a really unique group in this town, Vero Beach especially, and especially at First Pres, and it's very inspiring. Favorite thing.
Great. You heard it here first on the interview. Jacob Craig's an introvert. All right. Okay, Michael.
I really kind of lean into the idea that as pastors we are teaching elders, and I love that role of teacher from the pulpit as well as from kind of from the lectern in a class. I love teaching the Zoom Bible study I do on Tuesday nights. And so one of my favorite things is any teacher is I love when you see someone's face and they go, oh, I haven't thought about it that way before. You can see it in the pulpit. You can see people as they're listening to a text. That's why I always say, let's hear this text again for the first time. You know, because every time we read that text, it should speak to us in new ways. And so I love that teaching element and seeing people just go, aha, okay, I hadn't thought about that. And then in turn, when a student in a class or someone after a sermon can say, have you thought about this way? And then I, as the teacher, can become the student and go, Okay, I hadn't thought about it that way before. So I love that interplay in the teaching aspect of the word.
Yeah, and that's important. We are ordained to be teaching elders in one respect, and that is a gift of what we do. I grew up in the church, and it was my really only experience. I've never been away from the church per se, so I'm really, really familiar with the church. And I guess one of the things I've enjoyed is just a constant reminder that, in essence, people are pretty amazingly good. I guess in that respect, I'm a pretty lousy Calvinist. It just amazes me again and again and again as we endure different things, as we go through different struggles, how people so often step up. And that encourages me and just helps me in a lot of ways. So I've always enjoyed that part of the work, just realizing who shows up and who steps up, and the goodness that takes place in the part of this faith community. And I think that's one of the things I really have come to enjoy, among all the other things that I enjoy. I always tell folks that being a minister is just an amazing, amazing job. And besides my pet peeve of golf carts, my other pet peeve are ministers that complain about being a minister. So those are the things I enjoy. All right. So this section is what we call this or that. So you have to answer this or that fairly quickly. Hamburger or hot dog?
Hamburger.
Hamburger.
Day at the beach or day in the mountains?
Mountains.
Mountains.
Beach. Pastor Tim, beard or no beard?
Beard.
Beard.
Said by people who have beards. Sunday best or a Hawaiian shirt?
Sunday best.
Bow tie.
Bow tie. Yeah, I didn't ask about the tie. I should have done that.
Yeah.
Favorite meal? Breakfast, lunch, or dinner?
Dinner.
Breakfast.
Nice. Disney World or Universal?
Universal.
Disney World for now.
Good. And the quintessential question for people in the South, Coke or Pepsi?
Well, see, where Michael and I come from, right? Everything's a Coke. That's one of the cool things about Georgia summer. It's like, hey, you want a Coke? Well, what kind of Coke you want? I'd like a Sprite.
Michael?
There is no Pepsi. I'm a Georgia boy.
There's no Pepsi.
Apparently there are no Carolina people here, so that's okay. All right, that's this or that. You get to know folks a little bit through this or that. So, Michael, you already shared, one of your earliest memories was a difficult memory. Part of being involved in the church are not only great joyous moments, but they're challenging moments, kind of like this pandemic. What are some of the more difficult moments in your ministry that you've had to face?
Oh, that's a tough question. I've had 3 calls in the church. One is associate for youth, which was just incredible, full of those aha moments. One has been here at First Presbyterian for 5 years. And then I served a difficult church. I served a church that a lot of folks call clergy killers. They have a 60-year history, and they've never had a pastor serve longer than 4 years. And there's a reason for that. And every year was difficult. It was a very struggling time. And there was a point at the end of that call, had I not met Tom Harris and gone through Credo, and had a renewed sense of call to the church, I felt like I was one step away from being a used car salesman. I figured it worked for Dabo Sweeney, maybe it could work for me. But it was a tough call. It was a tough church. There's some wonderful people there, some wonderful people that I love dearly still. But just the uniqueness of that church was hard. It really made me question my sense of call, which reminds me of when I was in high school and felt a sense of call to ministry. My senior pastor at the time said, if there's anything else you can do, do it. And now I know that what he meant was the call to ministry can be difficult, and you need to make sure it's your calling by God and not just something you want to do. And so I've been renewed in my sense of call since being at First Presbyterian for sure.
Good. That's good news. Speaks a lot to you and the people here, I think. Jacob?
I actually kind of echo Michael a little bit. I've always kind of been hesitant of accepting ministry as a vocation, probably because I wrongly viewed it as a vocation instead of a calling. And so it is actually being here at First Pres that has almost single-handedly restored my faith and my belief in the value of the church, and in the fact that one of the reasons I might have struggled with the idea of ministry as a career field is because I was reluctant to answer that call, but I feel compelled to do so. And now it's all I want to do.
Cool. Well, that's good. And that's helpful to know. Again, that kind of echoes somewhat of the goodness of humanity when they help you realize the value of a calling in church life. You know, for me, there've been a lot of difficulties in ministry, challenges that I've had to overcome. Some of them have been, you know, making sure that I listened well, that I overcame some of my personal limitations, that I had to change some of what I did in order to make myself a better pastor. And so, you know, those things aren't easy. It's hard to change yourself when you've invested so much in some of what you've done. So I've always felt like that's kind of one of the most personal challenges, is to take critiques, to take growth issues and to really implement them in your life. And that's always been both a challenge and a opportunity for me in ministry. I guess one of the things, as I go a little deeper into my tenure, not just here at this church, but in ministry, is that the loss of so many wonderful brothers and sisters in Christ doesn't get any easier. It gets a little more difficult because you just begin to lament all those who helped you in this journey. So those are a couple of things that for me would be difficult times, but also times to celebrate. It's kind of the two edges, the two sides of a coin. So a couple other questions. Who was your most influential spiritual guide or person? And I would put this caveat, other than Jesus. We can't all just, like the children's sermon, answer Jesus. So who would that be?
That for me is pretty easy. Dr. Jerry Paris Perkins was a mentor assigned to me while I was at Presbyterian College. She was the chaplain at Presbyterian Homes, which is now where your dad is. And so this is while I was in college. She has since gone on to be a senior pastor at several different churches, including the church where I had my first job as a high school chorus teacher. And so she was my pastor and mentor. And so when it was time for me to go to seminary, you know, I went to her office and said, you know, I feel it's time to go to seminary. And her response was, I know. And so she's kind of been alongside me the whole way. She officiated mine and Aaron's wedding. She baptized our first two bio children. Of course, Tim baptized Bo. And, you know, she's just has really been, whenever there's been an issue or something to talk through or something, I can just go call her up and she'll kind of set me straight. You know, she pushes me in a way that I allow very few people to push me. So it's been good. She's been just an incredible individual.
Super.
In terms of kind of an academic side, definitely C.S. Lewis in terms of his writings and stuff. That has really helped along a lot of different ways. But in terms of a real life person, I've actually got to commend you, Tim, for that one. You're the way you live your life in ministry is something that's very inspiring to me and makes me think a lot. And so that has been one of the greater blessings about being here.
Good. Well, I'm red because I'm always red. I'm not blushing. So just to let you know that. What about Don? I think he's worth a mention, particularly for you. I've seen his his leadership take hold for you in a lot of ways?
In terms of a life coach and or just mentor in general, yeah, Don has been probably the most influential man in my life for sure. Yeah.
So we're speaking of Don Winkler, who was a member of our church, a business executive and life coach in a lot of ways, who mentored particularly the three of us and many others here at the church, and just a great man. We miss him very much. For me, I've had a minister once said to me, "Who's the most influential person in your life?" And the minister said, "Whoever walks in my door next." And in some way, there's some truth in that. I've had just some wonderful mentors along the way. I like to tell folks I've had kind of an idyllic experience of ministry with incredibly wonderful folks helping me out along the way, from George Mahaffey, who was my first senior pastor, who gave me credit for things I didn't do and took the heat for things I did. I've learned from that. Lacey Harwell, who was a minister when I was an intern, who told the congregation at my charge and installation that I need to make sure I have a good priest who's a good friend, a good rabbi that's a good friend, and a good heathen that's a good friend, so that I understand the needs of people. So all of these folks, from parents to colleagues in ministry, have all been amazing influences. So it's hard to pick one. Anyway, so a couple of things here as we move forward and kind of wrap things up. Kind of quick shots here. A lot of times in life of ministry, we go on mission trips. What are your favorite mission trips?
South Africa.
I can only imagine what yours is, Jacob.
Yes, sir. South Africa.
All right. Auburn Crow, baby. Michael?
I'll have to say, I as a youth pastor, I did a lot of mission trips. I mean, we did 3 mission trips this summer: Mexico, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, Mississippi, hurricane cleanup, all that kind of stuff. I've been to Guatemala, Mexico on mission trips. The one that really sticks out to me is, again, it's one that we have initiated as First Presbyterian Beach, and it's our partnership with our sister church in Cabaguan, Cuba. The relationship we have with Marlon and Elizabeth and their church, the ability, I think the intimacy of baptism is really important. And for me as a pastor, to invite someone to baptize our children, because I wanted to be dad, is meaningful, which is why Tim has done that for Bo, and Jerry has done that for the girls. And then for Marlon and Elizabeth to ask me to baptize Madison has been really powerful, and that deep connection. So I think I've been there 3 times now, and that relationship is one that's really a blessing to me.
Well, from a mission trip, when you're asked to take part in someone's life in such a meaningful time, that's really hard to beat. So, I guess I would also include South Africa in that. Yet I've been to a lot of great mission trips, and it's hard to pick one because they're all different people and different moments in ministry. So it really is hard to pick one over against another one. Maybe one of my favorite mission trips is going to Publix, and you never know. You never know. All right, favorite Bible verse.
Psalm 91. He who dwells in the shadow of the Most High will abide in the shadow of the Almighty, who say, the Lord is my rock and my fortress, my God in whom I will trust.
Thank you. I thought many people may not have been able to quote Psalm 91 off the top of their head. So thank you for the help. I appreciate that. Michael?
Galatians 5:13, for you are called to freedom, brothers and sisters, only do not use your freedom as an opportunity for self-indulgence, but instead become servants to one another.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I've got lots, but I just would pick Romans 5:4. We celebrate in our suffering because suffering produces perseverance, and perseverance character, and character hope, and hope will not disappoint us. So I love that one. And also John 4:16, God is love, and those who abide in love abide in God, and God abides in them. So those are two. I remember as a kid, my favorite Bible verse was Jesus wept, because when the teacher called on me, asked me what my favorite Bible verse was, that was the shortest Bible verse that I could remember. So that was always fun. So, all right, quick end up to this event. We're going to do a couple of more fun ones. If you could only have one food item to eat for the rest of your life, what would that be?
Grouper.
Grouper. Michael?
If I weren't gluten-free, it'd be buttermilk biscuits.
Oh.
Yeah, being on this keto diet, it's anything with a carb in it. That's what I would eat. Probably pasta. Lots and lots of pasta. So let's see. A couple other. What's your favorite ice cream and or dessert?
Ooh.
Favorite flavor ice cream and or dessert?
Mint chocolate chip.
The salted caramel gelato from Sweet Kiss is our favorite. So
Nice.
Good.
You know, vanilla with any kind of cool decadent topping. I'm totally good with it. So what's your favorite restaurant in Vero Beach?
The Tides.
The Tides is good. Vero Prime has always been one we've really enjoyed.
Nice. Just because we know one of the owners, Roger, Fire and Wine, down south off of Oslo, we've really enjoyed that place. So that's fun, and it also helps that Stephanie lets me go there. So that's nice. So last question as we wind this up. I always think this is an interesting question. We know you're called to ministry. We know you've processed that call to ministry. Maybe we fought this call to ministry. Yet, if we weren't in ministry, what vocation would we be involved in?
Military. Air Force pilot.
Nice. What plane?
F-16.
Nice. Okay. That, that's instead of music director, there you go. Just not much different, but that's good.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, it's like this. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Michael?
Well, prior to seminary, I was a high school chorus and drama teacher and loved every minute of it, and cried when I left it because I knew I was called to something else, but still have a connection with the students that I taught there. So I would probably be finishing my 20th year teaching high school chorus and drama if I were still teaching.
That's cool. I think if I had to look back, I probably would have been involved in soccer in some way. My nickname by some was Slow-O because I never had the speed. I had some of the skill set to be good at soccer. I wasn't fast enough. Just you can't teach fast, and that's just the way it is. But I would have loved to have coached. I would have loved to have, been a part of a leadership of a soccer club in some way. I just have always enjoyed that and would like to do that. Maybe in my retirement, if I win the lottery, I might purchase a club. We'll see. Maybe Arsenal will be available at that time. Maybe in the 4th division of English soccer by then. I don't know.
You want to get it for cheap, but keep going the way they're going.
That's it. Get it on the cheap. So anyway, hey, thank y'all for the time for interview. Hopefully folks have enjoyed this. We had a little bit of time to get to know each one of us a little better. Maybe there's something about us that you didn't know. We'll be doing these from time to time. We're going to interview other members of our staff. You just have a great staff, and we'll do this from time to time. And some of our membership and some of the leaders from our community that we'll invite to come in. So thank you for being with us. Thank you, Jacob. Thank you, Michael. Means a lot, and God bless. Thank you so much.
Thank you.